All right, class. First off, as always, good day. I'm glad you're here. So today's lesson is we're going to be looking at the Egyptians, and then we're going to get into how some religions started to change, went going from polytheism to monotheism. And we'll be, if you notice, there's going to be one name mentioned a couple times, and this person we'll be talking about in a week or two. Uh, but this person is pretty important when it comes to world history. Okay, so let's go over today's objectives. All right, there they are. We're going to analyze the difference between Egypt's old, middle, and new kingdom. Okay, in Egyptian history, it wasn't just Egypt history. No, they broke it down, and within each group of kingdom, there's different dynasties and stuff like that. Then we're examine the. Oh, I forgot to change those. Um, that middle one. I forgot to change the one about the first laws. So forget that one, okay, because that was last class. But the last one says develop a logical argument on why some empires last longer than others. Okay, as you're going to see, the Egyptians fall. You're going to see King Solomon's empire fall. Cyrus's. So why do all these empires just last for so long and all of a sudden they crumble? So, okay, so keep that question in the back of your mind and start developing some thoughts on why would that happen. Okay. Now, here's your warm-up picture. Now, if you can't really read the bottom because it's kind of blurry, I try to find a better one, but this is the best it can get. If you notice, there's a pharaoh, two guys, the pyramid as you see, and the caption on the bottom says, "Thanks, guys, looks great." Okay, so my question to you is this: do you think, you personally, think the pyramid was man made? So the Great Pyramids, and all that stuff, based off what you've, learned in the past, what you've heard, and things like that, and then using your own logic, like, yeah, that sounds plausible, like it could happen, or do you think like, no, no, some of the things I've heard in the past, nah, nah, there's no way it could be done like that, you know? Okay, so I'm not gonna say anything because I don't want to put any thoughts in your head. I just want to know what you personally think. Do you think the pyramids are man-made? Okay, uh, so pause the video, write your responses because we're moving on in three, two, one. All right, so let's go ahead and start with Egypt. Now, King Menes, he did something that some people thought was like impossible to do at that time, which was unite Upper and Lower Egypt, combine them. And he actually did it. And because of that, he created a kingdom. And he would start the first dynasty of Egypt. Okay. Now, like I said in the objective part, a lot of people hear the term dynasty and they think, okay, Egypt, that's how it's just one big dynasty. No, there were several within each kingdom, and there's three kingdoms. There's old, middle, and new. Okay. Now, the old kingdom is known as the age of prosperity, meaning they went from a little group right by the Nile to becoming an empire. Okay. And this is the time where the Great Pyramids, as you see in this picture, were being built. Okay. Now, big pyramids, as you can see, they were made for the pharaohs. Okay. The smaller ones, as you see up top, those were made for his family. And if you look at the big pyramid in the shadows, you'll see like little rectangles, like little tombs, right, to the side. Those, believe it or not, are for his officials. His priests and things like that, the uh, advisors, things like that. Those guys are buried next to him. But as you can see from this aerial view, compared to the compared to the pyramids, they're pretty small. But still, now the thing is, these bodies were mummified. Now, some of you guys may remember about mummification from your like sixth grade, seventh grade year in history. some of you guys may not. Um, I'm actually going to do a TikTok video on the whole process of mummification, but just to give you a little refresher, it takes about 70 days to completely remove the organs. And we're talking about the brain, liver, lungs, intestines, stomach, all that good stuff. And then they would put them in jars, and then they would cover the body in salt. Now, why salt? Because the thing is, salt absorbs moisture, and it helps, kind of, you know, yeah, prevents the body from rotting. Okay, because that's what really destroys the smell of a body that's dead. It's the moisture in it. Okay, and then they would fill the body with spices and stuff like that, and then wrap it in linen, and then bury the body in the tomb along with the jars of the intestines and things like that. Uh, and they basically felt like, hey, you're going on your journey in the afterlife. So again, I'm going to be making a TikTok video on the whole process, what the Egyptians believe would happen after you died. The whole thing with the feather of truth and the river Styx and things like that. So if you like that kind of stuff, be sure to check that out. Okay. All right. So next kingdom is the Middle Kingdom, which is known as the Golden Age of Stability. So things are going well for them. They're basically expanding their empire and expanding their trade. Okay, so they really don't lose land all that much. They're more spreading, getting bigger and bigger. That's why it's called the Age of Stability. Um, the next one is the New Kingdom. Now, this is where they really become rich and powerful, but this is also where they collapse. They fall within themselves. Um, one example is they were attacked and partly controlled by this group. I'm gonna kill this word. Hykisos. Hykisos. You probably say it better than me, but all right. But the thing is, what the interesting thing that the Egyptians did was that this group knew how to use bronze. Okay. Now, thing is, you have to remember the Egyptian knew how to use stuff like stone and things like that. But bronze is a metal that can be bended. It's sturdy, you know, um, and this group that took over for them showed them how to use bronze to make tools, how to make it for weapons, swords and spear tips and things like that. So what ends up happening is the Egyptians used this technology against them and eventually got defeated them and kicked them out of Egypt. Okay, but the thing is, these pharaohs with their mass amount of wealth would start building temples and things like that. Um, And this is where one thing interesting happens, which I found out. One pharaoh introduced monotheism. Now, if you break down that word, mono means one. Theism is the belief in God. So the belief that there's only one God. And the thing is, this actually upset a lot of Egyptians because, their religion, there's multiple gods, you know, and especially the main one, Ra, the god of the sun, to say no, 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 it's not him. He's not the only one, or he's not the one. There's only one, and he's not it. That really just shook up some people. Um, and then there was this group called the Sea People. Now I was like, wait, Sea People? Basically, these guys came in from the Mediterranean into Egypt, and they fought Egypt back to their um, original size. So what Egypt is basically like today, the country, they brought them back like that. Now they see people as not just one group of people. I found out that it's actually like six groups of different people, but they all came through from the Mediterranean. But the Egyptians just basically clumped them up and said they're the sea people because they came from the sea. Now, this is where I was saying about that one person you're going to hear a couple times on this lecture video. Alexander the Great. You'll be learning about him later on. He comes in and conquers Egypt and a bunch of other countries. So Egypt shouldn't have felt bad, like, oh my God, we lost Alexander. Yeah, you guys and a bunch of other countries, so don't feel too bad. The dude, all he knew how to do was win, when it comes to battles and wars. Okay. Now, in the first century, Cleopatra the Seventh tried to reinstate the independence of Egypt. She's trying to make it, you know, uh, powerful again, and we are the only ones, and we control our destiny. But the thing is, she made a mistake in that she involved Rome, and Rome, as you're going to find out in another couple weeks, they were a juggernaut when it comes to power, when it comes to taking over territory, and they don't share power, and they eventually completely took over Egypt, and that was basically the end of Egypt. That's how they fall. Alrighty, so now we're coming to the Israelites. All right, so Judaism, this is not only a religion, it's a race of people. Okay, I want to make that perfectly clear too. So when you hear people say, oh, this Jewish, this and that, they could be talking about a person who either is Jewish in race or they follow the religion. Okay, just gotta know distinguish that there is a difference because you can be uh, a faith, Jewish faith, without being Jewish yourself. Okay. Now, what is it? Judaism. It basically influenced other religions such as Christianity and Islam, believe it or not. Okay. Now, they are Semitic speaking people, which is kind of like a Middle Eastern type of language. Okay. And much of their history, not all of it, but a good portion of it, is recorded in the Hebrew Bible, which is what a lot of Christians know as the Old Testament. Okay, so if you ever heard some old stories about you know, Adam and Eve and things like that, and uh, Sodom and Gomorrah and things like that, that's Old Testament. That's what they're talking about here. Now, one of the more popular kings that people know about is King Solomon. He ruled the Israelites. He controlled all the land, uh, uh, which was called Israel, and Jerusalem, which Jerusalem is the capital. Okay, there's a very famous story with King Solomon. He was known as the Wise, and he had a lot of laws. And one of the most famous story was husband and wife wanted to be separated, but the thing is, they had a child. And the thing, King Solomon basically said, "Okay, you both want the child. Okay, how about this? We split the child in two, and that way you both have a half." And the mother was like, "No, you can't do that. No, no, no. I'd rather have him have the baby than you doing that." And the father was like, "All right, split them." And that's when King Solomon said, "Okay, child belongs to the mother because she's willing to sacrifice her own being with the child to save its life, so she's worthy." The dad was just like, "Do it. Cut him in half. I'll take the left side." So he was like, "No, you obviously don't really care about the child. The mother does. The baby goes with the mother." So that's like one of the more famous stories of King Solomon. Now, the thing is that made them distinguish compared to other groups was that a lot of other religions were polytheism. These guys, again, were monotheists. They believed in one God. So, unlike the Egyptians and other religions that had a God for every single element that there was on earth, God for the trees, God for the wind, God for thunder, God for rain, things like that, God of the sun, they said, no, 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 there's only one, and that God controls like everything. Um, so this was like a real mind blown to some people. Sorry, back then, just the thought that there's only one God and He controls everything, and not just no, 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 no. It has to be a God for the wind, God for the rain. Because how can one God control everything in the world and the elements and things like that? Okay, excuse me. So they also believe that Moses led the Jewish people out of Egypt, and God made basically a contract with him, okay, which was the Ten Commandments. Have you ever seen the movie The Ten Commandments, the old one with Charlton Heston? Let my people go. You probably already know the whole story and thing like that, so I won't go into it. But if you haven't seen it, Usually around Christmas and Easter time, they play it on like ABC and like TBS and things like that. Um, it's a good movie. Again, Charlton Heston, one of the more pretty good actor. You know, but yeah, he plays Moses. Now they also believe that God sent religious teachers, or what they would also call prophets, to Earth, so that God could be the so they could be the voice of God here on Earth. Okay, so again, some people were seen as, oh, you are the voice of God here on earth. So Moses would be one of them, and things like that. Noah, God talked to Noah, things like that. Okay, so again, if you know the Old Testament stuff, you already get this stuff. If you don't, um, yeah, there you go. There's a overall thing on it. All right, so basically, as the time of Egypt was about to go down, um, other empires started to form. The Assyrian Empire started coming up. Now, these guys, they used terror, and they were very warlike people. Now, the term might sound familiar, Assyrian. You if you know about World War II, uh, that might ring a bell to you. If you don't, you will by the end of this uh, school year. You'll learn about the connection between the Assyrians and World War II. Now, what did they do that was so bad? Well, basically, when they took over an area, when they went to war, they went to war and they destroyed entire towns and cities and basically took whatever was valuable. These guys are the reason why a lot of things are lost in history. People like this who have no regard for records and things like that. No, no, destroy it all. If it's not part of us, destroy it. All right. Now, Nebuchadnezzar the second did something that was like, wow, just kind of fascinating, in that he rebuilt Babylon and made it into the center of the empire. Here's the problem: it would collapse in 539. Okay, so it didn't last too long, but it did last. And then this is where another group comes in called the Persians. Now, the Persians were starting off as a nomad tribe. They moved around. Remember, nomad means you don't have a home, you follow the food and things like that. But under Cyrus, which is that guy in the picture right there, what people believe he looked like, they unified. The Persians unified and they formed an empire. And this is where Cyrus captured Babylon. It's because of him that they collapsed. But the thing is, Cyrus was unlike the Assyrians. Um, he was known as Cyrus the Great. He was known as being wise and merciful and things like that. So, unlike the Assyrians, who were very warlike and let's destroy everything and take what we need, he didn't destroy complete cities and stuff like that. Okay. Now, his rule was from 559 to 530 BC. Okay. Uh, and after he died, there were other people who took over for him who did pretty well up until Darius, which would be the last great ruler of the Persian Empire. But the thing is, after him, all the other leaders were basically like just thinking about themselves. What could I get? All they cared about was about money, and what could they get from life? How could people serve them? It was all about them. They were self-centered, egotistical people, and because of that, the empire started to fall and go down, and loyalty for their leader just basically diminished. And it's because of that this guy came at the right time, and his name was, as you can see, Alexander the Great, and he took over the Persian Empire in 330 BC. All right, so like I said, that name Alexander the Great, just keep it in the back of your head because we're going to be coming back to him, and you're going to see why he's so important in world history. But here's your question: why do you think some empires last longer than others? What makes some empires successful, and rise and last, where some just crumble and fall like right away? What is the possibilities of why an empire might last? Some people think that the United States, that we are in a sense kind of like an empire, and people always say, hey, we got to watch out because um, just like in history, every empire eventually crumbles. So, what do you think? Why do you think some empires last, some don't? Okay, so think about it. Write your response. The writing prompts right there to help you out. I believe some empires last longer than others because what? Some do this, some don't do that. Um, some most empires that are successful, they do this, they do that, and those that are the ones that are about to crumble and fall, they believe this, they believe that, or they probably did this, they probably did that. Tell me what you think. Okay. So once you finish this question, you're done with this particular lesson. So hopefully you learned something new. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Again, if you're interested in learning more about the process of the mummification and what do the Egyptians believe happened after you died, the whole, again, feather of truth and things like that. And, you know, um, if you've seen the show Moon Knight, you have a pretty good idea, you know. So, uh, so yeah. So just if you're interested, watch it on TikTok. Okay. So with that being said, you guys, you take care, you be safe, and I'll see you guys later. Okay.